Up next on The Reveal.
We are her parents.
A Georgia gay couple fights to prevent their baby from deportation. The parents are U.S. citizens, but the State Department says their daughter is not.
And I said, well, we're both the real fathers. If what you're asking is which one of us, had the sperm that created her, the answer is this one.
That was crushing. It was very upsetting.
He was nonverbal.
And the new push to protect some of the most vulnerable patients.
He'd been safe in my care, and I relinquished that care to trained professionals, and he died in a trained facility.
Jeffrey Smith served 3 tours in Afghanistan, but recently found himself fighting to leave the Army with honor, benefits, and help.
I don't know how to function normally. And that's another reason I'm scared. I don't know what I'm gonna do.
From our Midtown studios in Atlanta, The Reveal begins now with our multi-Emmy and National Murrow Award-winning team of investigators.
Welcome to The Reveal, an investigative show making an impact. I'm Brendan Keith.
And I'm Faith Abube. A Georgia couple's 1-year-old daughter now faces deportation because the State Department doesn't consider her a U.S. citizen. Both her parents are Americans. This past July, the couple filed a lawsuit claiming a U.S. government policy discriminates against children born to gay parents.
She's such a joy. She's so curious. She's so smart.
When Derek Mize and Johnny Gregg first met, this is how they pictured their future together, raising a child of their own.
I'd seen Derek with kids. I knew how good he was with them. And when he said that he wanted them, I was like, this is a no-brainer. Of course we should have children.
I felt, even though I was gay and it might look a little different, I still just knew in my heart that I was going to figure out a way.
They did figure out a way, and it started in 2017, 4,000 miles away in London, with a longtime friend who agreed to be a surrogate to carry their child. An anonymous donor supplied the egg. Johnny's sperm fertilized the embryo. 9 months later, they were all in the delivery room together.
Things that just kept going through my mind is, I'm going to meet you now and I'm going to take care of you for the rest of your life.
Moments later, they met their daughter, Simone Mize Gregg, born June 2018.
There's nothing, I know it's cliche, but there is nothing like the feeling of a baby that was just born on your chest. A, B, C.
More than a year later, instead of focusing on Simone's next milestone, they're now fighting to keep her from deportation. While both her fathers are U.S. citizens, the State Department does not recognize her as an American because the father with the biological tie, that's Johnny, did not live in the U.S. for the required amount of time prior to Simone's birth. It completely discounts Derek as a parent, who is also listed on the birth certificate. The U.S. Consulate's office in London told them just before they boarded a flight back to Georgia.
And she took a deep breath and she said, I'm really so sorry to tell you that we will not be able to give you a passport because Simone is not a U.S. citizen. And my heart went to the floor.
That was crushing. It was very upsetting.
Last month, the couple filed a lawsuit against the State Department and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, claiming the agency's interpretation of its policy unlawfully discriminates against children simply because their parents are same-sex. The suit also explains the agency wrongfully applies a section of the law related to unmarried parents, writing, in doing so, State Department officials failed to acknowledge the validity of Mr. Mize and Mr. Gregg's marriage, deemed Simone to have been born out of wedlock, and treated Mr. Mize as if he were not Simone's father. The State Department declined to discuss the litigation.
It's important for her to be a U.S. citizen because we're U.S. citizens and this is where her home is.
Since 2018, 2 other same-sex couples have filed lawsuits against the State Department. It happened to Allison and Stephanie's son, Lucas.
The government saying, no, you're not his mother, it makes me feel, again, rejected. All the things I felt from the U.S.
And again to Andrew and Elad's son, Ethan.
When the twins were born, it was almost like something out of a storybook.
The couple has twin boys, Ethan and Aiden, conceived by a surrogate out of the country. The State Department believes only Aiden is a citizen, not his twin brother Ethan, because the sperm used to create his embryo is from his Israeli-born father.
If we were a straight couple, and I was an Israeli woman, and both of our names were on both kids' birth certificates, would you ever require us to perform a DNA test?
This past February, a federal judge sided with the couple, calling the State Department's policy unconstitutional and unlawful, ruling that Ethan is a United States citizen. Despite the judge's decision, the U.S. government has yet to recognize Lucas or Simone as Americans.
They are denying the fact, however, that this child is an American citizen.
Representative Hank Johnson is one of about 100 members of Congress who signed a letter this past June demanding the State Department change its discriminatory and cruel policy. Derek and Johnny live in Johnson's district.
It's a clear case of equal protection under the law that is being denied to this same-sex couple with respect to their daughter.
Happy birthday! Earlier this summer, Derek and Johnny celebrated their daughter's first birthday in Decatur, Georgia, just before her tourism visa expired, making the only home Simone's ever known a foreign country.
If you could say anything to Secretary Pompeo, what would you say?
I would invite him over for dinner, to be honest, and have them ask us questions that they may have, you know, to figure out what our lives are like. Let's talk about what it means to be a family in America, because we're not that different.
So Simone's visa expired. What are her parents planning to do now?
Right now they're staying put right here in Georgia, and they're hoping that they can get the issue resolved in the courts and not move back to London. This is a very scary time for them.
Andy, why not apply for a green card or apply for citizenship?
Because they don't think that their daughter, who is a U.S. citizen, needs a green card. They believe it would set an ugly precedent, allowing the government to treat them differently than straight couples.
Next on The Reveal.
Ever in your wildest fears did you think he could die at the facility?
Never.
Never.
A Georgia family calls for change following a loved one's death.
If you have a news tip or a comment on one of our investigations, email us at thereveal@11alive.com.
Welcome back to The Reveal. The last moments of Austin Skidmore's life were filled with confusion, panic, and pain. Both autistic and nonverbal, Austin was struggling on the ground with Laurel Heights Hospital staff when they saw his lips turn blue. The tragedy has one family calling for better care and raising concern over treatment of behavioral health patients.
An inquisitive child, our son.
He traveled his whole life.
Trains, planes, automobiles, and ferries he went on. Key West, Yellowstone. He was nonverbal, so everything was by look, by feel, by touch. We had our own communication. He was Curious George because he had one word.
All right, hold on, almost.
It was a sentence.
All right, one more. Look at Dad. All right, put your arms down. Good boy.
Jack and Karen were more than parents. They were also providing 24/7 medical care.
Nonverbal, apraxia, that was part of it, that was the nonverbal. Moderate intellectual disability. Behavior disorders. He was also impulsive. It was a lot. And the seizures was, that was what triggered the severe behaviors.
At age 17, Austin was placed in 24/7 care at Laurel Heights Hospital.
Ever in your wildest fears did you think he could die at the facility?
Never.
Never.
It didn't cross our minds. Because he'd been safe with us. He'd been safe in my care. And I relinquished that care to trained professionals, and he died in a trained facility. That is not right. on any level.
His parents say the details of Austin's death are unclear.
They said that Austin had an altercation with another student and he choked.
We envisioned him eating lunch and choking on his food.
That was not accurate. There is more to the story.
The medical examiner lists Austin's death as a homicide, choking on his own vomit while being restrained.
How many other times has this happened? How many other parents?
Those questions set off our investigation. We followed the claims of abuse at Georgia's 10 facilities owned by Universal Health Services. UHS runs the hospital where Austin died, and it's one of the largest operators of mental health facilities in the state. Police reports reveal at least 64 claims. Most involve children or teens. Some are cases of physical harm. The others allege sexual abuse. Of all the cases, we only found 3 resulting in an employee arrest. UHS responded by saying, quote, "It is not accurate to impose a blanket characterization of abuse based upon a word or words written in a police report. We believe even one negative incident or experience is one too many." Our facilities fully cooperate with authorities in all cases.
I don't know where it went wrong. I don't know what I did wrong. But it happened so fast.
Police interviews recorded with the hospital staff explain the moments leading to Austin's death.
I'm just trying to, get him to calm down. I'm talking through it. Austin, you okay? You okay?
So he swung at me, and that's when he fell on the ground in front of me. So I jumped on top of him to hold his arms down. And then another male staff came to hold his feet.
I went to restrain him and hold him. We were trying to get him positioned correctly on his side. And once we got him there, so something's not right. So when we looked at him, he was purple.
In response to Austin's death, a hospital spokesperson sent us a statement. Austin Skidmore died in our care, and for that we are responsible. Laurel Heights Hospital cooperated fully with authorities in the investigation. No criminal charges were filed. We undertook a comprehensive assessment and instituted appropriate corrective actions to the satisfaction of regulatory authorities.
We're angry. We were under the assumption that it was something that Austin just happened to Austin. It didn't just happen to Austin.
We also uncovered 42 cases of alleged sexual abuse at UHS's Georgia facilities.
Why didn't you guys request an exam or call the police on Monday?
Police interviews with UHS hospital staffers reveal questions about how those claims are handled.
As far as police, we don't often involve the police.
I understand.
It's just not our standard practice.
Jeremy, from your findings, just how common is abuse at these facilities?
We identified 64 cases of abuse, and that actually may not represent the total number of incidents for a number of reasons. Notably, it can be very difficult to report abuse due to stigma and self-blame. That can deter a lot of teens from coming forward. We've posted our full investigation, Calling for Care, on 11alive.com. It documents another family's journey from discovering their son was abused by another patient to finding another source of care.
Coming up on The Reveal.
It's when you get home that your brain starts processing everything that you went through.
He says he's a casualty of war, treated unfairly by the army he served. He fought for our country with honor, but a former veteran now finds himself in a different battle. This one with the Army he once served.
And Faith, he's not alone. Our investigation reveals how the Army continues to turn its back on some of its most vulnerable soldiers.
Right there in the front is Jeffrey Smith, an infantryman training in Afghanistan for one of the first of many fights. 3 combat deployments, and about 10 years later, we met Smith last spring at his Lacey home, this time fighting a new battle.
Okay, why don't you get your bike and just meet
against the army that sent him to war.
I'm more comfortable being in Afghanistan than I am sitting in this living room right now.
His combat-related post-traumatic stress disorder is too severe for him to stay in the military. Doctors say he needs help. But instead of leaving the Army honorably for medical reasons, in April, a high-ranking Army official made a choice to kick him out of the service without honor, without VA benefits, without help. The discharge? Other than honorable. The reason? Misconduct. Over 7 months last year, Smith got in trouble for 3 alcohol-related incidents. Twice he showed up to work drunk. Then he got a DUI. All behavior doctors could have predicted.
Substance abuse is as much part of PTSD as pain is part of cancer.
The Army once called Smith one of the best. Not only is he decorated with honors, but in work evaluations he consistently exceeded Army standards. But what these records don't show was Smith's private struggle.
And I would be at work and have an anxiety attack or a panic attack and start freaking out and just, go get what I've always gotten, go get alcohol.
The Army sent him to treatment, their first of several attempts to get him help. But it didn't work.
It's when you get home that your brain starts processing everything that you went through. And I mean, we were trying to process it by ourselves. And I mean, alcohol was the only way we could do it. It wasn't going and talking to somebody.
Smith couldn't talk about the helplessness he felt in battle, listening over the radio to his friend die. He couldn't talk about what it felt like to know that soldier died, and somehow he made it out of 3 separate IED blasts and this firefight.
I was sure I was dead.
On that same deployment, Smith says his platoon walked through an Afghanistan village right after the U.S. military hit it with mortars.
You see kids burnt up or you see toys and stuff on the ground in schools and women burnt up.
Last year, all that unresolved pain came to a head. That's when Smith started showing up to work late and drunk. The Army again sent him to treatment, and they put him on a track to get out of the military with a medical discharge. It's the same process they've used to separate tens of thousands of other soldiers with PTSD. But after Smith in December got that second DUI as a soldier, his captain put a stop to that medical track. He recommended to superiors that the Army instead punish Smith by kicking him out for breaking the rules.
So what stands
This is
out
neuropsychologist Robert Stanulis, who specializes in treating veterans. We asked him to review Smith's military records.
If you look at what is being called misconduct, is really a measure of the severity of his symptoms.
2 psychiatrists who examined Smith in person agreed. Smith was using alcohol to avoid his trauma, to relieve the symptoms of his PTSD. In the end, it would be up to not a doctor, but a major general at Joint Base Lewis McChord to decide whether this struggling soldier deserves lifelong benefits and help or nothing at all. And you already know Smith walked away empty-handed.
Should have picked a different career.
So what do Army leaders have to say about all of that? Investigator Taylor Merfendereski has been asking for interviews about this issue for nearly a year. They declined. In a statement, though, an Army spokesperson did say that Smith was treated to a fair separation process and that Army officials do consider input from medical providers when making their decisions.
If you have a news tip or a comment on one of our investigations, email us at thereveal@11alive.com.
Thanks for watching The Reveal, the nation's only weekly local investigative show.
We'll see you next Sunday for The Reveal.